And now we will proceed to the last panel with the very catchy title, Will Legal iGaming Hit the Jackpot in the USA? And I am delighted to welcome again Jamie Shee, Chief Marketing Officer at Strive Gaming, who was with us in the first panel as well. Thaddeus Brown, Marketing Director at SGG Media, and Alan Stone, CEO at Intellytics. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourselves, Jamie, again, once again, and the gentleman?
Yes, so my name is Jamie Shea. I am the CMO at Strive Gaming. We are a PAM that fuels everything you want to do, sports betting and iGaming. I have a long history in the industry, from bricks and mortar all the way to at the onset of the first bet taken in New Jersey on sports betting with DraftKings, and so now very happily with Strive, and excited to be here.
Yeah, and my name is Thaddeus Brown. I'm the one of the marketing directors at SGG Media. We're all about social media marketing. We have over 1,700 influencers, and we regionally target partners such as DraftKings, FanDuel, and we have just over 58 million followers now. So thank you to have me.
Yeah, and I'm Alan Stone, CEO and co-founder of Intellytics Software. We provide a marketing OS for operators to better understand the capital they're deploying to acquire customers and then what those customers are doing post-acquisition to allow for greater marketing efficiency and customer targeting. I also run a company called Acquire.bet, which is a performance-based agency as well as a large iGaming publisher network. We run around 3,500 publishers and work with around 400 operators worldwide. So we are at this sort of meta center of technology and campaign management.
Okay, it appears that I have a delay. I don't have any sound from any of you. I hope that you can hear me so I can proceed to the first question. Okay, great. Sorry about that. So to move things forward, we are going to discuss the delay, let's say, of the online casino legislation in the US in comparison to the online sports betting regulation. And to give some context to the people watching us right now in the US, I think that 37 states have regulated and have live online sports betting, whereas with online casino, I think it's only 6 states. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So the first question is, why do you think that online casino legislation has failed to keep pace with sports betting? And what is that ultimately it's holding it back? Who would like to start?
Go ahead and start. So I think there's a lot of different things. I think, you look at sports betting and you had sports betting basically in Nevada, right? And so it was something everybody wanted. It doesn't compete with any land-based. So it was really like a must-have. Everybody wanted it, very exciting. And then you get into the iGaming space, and you already have the bricks and mortars casinos. There is that fear of cannibalization that you're going to find that once you have online gaming, there's this irrational fear that you're going to take all the players away and they're not going to go into casinos and you're going to lose jobs and markets and things like that. And I think that that's being proven to be not true, and that the revenue generated for the states is fantastic through the tax base. And I think that as they see the successes of the New Jerseys and Pennsylvanias, they're just going to continue to grow. But I don't think that there's the same furious legislation and lobbying around the iGaming space as there was around the sports betting space. I do think that's changing, but I think in the beginning, you did have some pushback from the brick and mortar casinos, and maybe not, pushing so hard to get that. And I think that has definitely changed, and there is more of the lobbying. I think that there is the realization that this is a good thing, that this is it brings everything into a regulated state. It brings it into, no gray markets. You can protect the consumer. You can make sure that you're keeping the fun in it. That you can make sure that you're still working on problem gaming and making certain that players have those resources that they need, and that's what you're going to find in the regulated space. So I think over the next couple of years we'll see it steadily grow, but I think that the reason has been the fear of the cannibalization.
Yeah, I'll jump in just because we sort of, I definitely agree with everything that Jamie has said, but just to provide some more clarity, I think there's two sort of very distinct categories that the states fall into. There's the states that have regulated sort of offline gaming, a state like California, and then states that don't, a state like Texas, for example. When you look at those two, I think the challenges are different in each one of those states. I think to Jamie's point, in California, for example, the tribes and the existing stakeholders here, I think they understand that there's not much cannibalization in the sense of, hey, if we were to take this brand and move these customers from an offline to an online venue, they realize that there's not any cannibalization there, but they also do know that there is potential for cannibalization if they don't have the regulation correctly worded, where they're still protecting their business interests. So for example, in California, the tribes don't really want to let a retail, they don't want the retail books to be able to participate. They want to maintain the control and the monopoly that they have in the state. So that's part of why the regulation in a state like California has taken so long to move. Moving on to Texas, for example, there is no legislation for iGaming for any sort of land-based gaming in Texas, right? So that's a hurdle that they're going to have to get over to either, number one, open the doors to allow land-based gaming, or make the decision to just not allow land-based gaming, but to regulate iGaming, right? And do so in a way that sort of functions similarly to what you've seen maybe in Pennsylvania or Arizona, where there's a partnership with a sports team or something like that, where there's sports betting and then iGaming is just a bolt on to the sports betting regulation that's going to pass there. I think, distinguishing why sports has become more approachable than iGaming, just speaking generally from a consumer perspective, is because the perspective from consumers is sports betting is little g gambling and iGaming is big G gambling, right? There's a little bit of a difference there when you're talking about a game of chance versus sports betting, arguably being, it's a different category versus, going against a random number generator or table games, for example. So consumer perspective is also what's driving a lot of that legislation, right? The legislators, they represent their constituents. If their constituents don't want big gambling in the state, then they're not going to push for it, no matter what the tax revenue of opportunity is. I think we can expect a similar rollout to what we've seen with probably cannabis across the state, across the nation. States that have the constituents that want it will adopt it, in the states that don't, it'll just take longer to happen.
Yeah, and just to go off Jamie now, and obviously the big reason is because the biggest fear is to draw away from the physical casinos. Gambling at home does not provide the same rush and the bright lights of the casino, especially with the table games and the card games. Sitting on the couch and throwing money on a quick card game or roulette even, without the people around you for the experience, could lead to almost increased gambling addiction and social issues. That's the biggest fear. And I think just compared to sports betting, I think sports betting has gained more acceptance over the years, partially due to its association of traditional forms like gambling, such as like horse racing, whereas it's a little bit more difficult with casino gambling at home.
Okay, those are quite valid points. But on top of that, if I may ask, and I'm just digressing from the original question a bit, because I also heard Jamie touching on this in the first panel. Would you say that it's not so much only about what online casino might be, how it fails, but also to what it might be lacking? So, for example, in sports, there was already the predecessor, let's say, the daily fantasy sports that were a huge thing in the US. And would you say that perhaps this kind of offering had already prepared, let's say, the ground for, again, another sports offering? And perhaps that has something to do with how online sports betting evolved, the regulation evolved much faster. Perhaps, this paved the way. Did this have anything to do?
I mean, I'll jump in. I don't think so, because we work with a number of we've been working in the social casino space for the better part of 15 years now. And if you look at the success of the big social casino apps like Double Down, Playtika, MyVegas, those brands achieved a level of success and acclaim, and the unicorn $1 billion status far faster than DraftKings or FanDuel did with DFS, right? So I don't know that that's necessarily the right way to look at it, because if you look at the social and now sweepstakes casino categories, the growth in those it's astronomical, right? So one does not relate to the other, right? Like, just because people are playing those social and sweepstakes casino games does not mean that the beachhead is necessarily softened for regulation for real money. I think DFS had that effect for sports, but I think iGaming is different. There's already a number of stakeholders that have a vested interest in not allowing iGaming to happen at a state level, right, in particular states. And so yeah, I wouldn't say that in the same way DFS was a precursor for regulated sports, I would not say that that's necessarily missing from casino, or that it's necessarily a precursor for casino either, because like I said, those verticals are massive, huge operators already in those verticals.
Great. Thanks for answering that. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else on that, or to move on to the next topic. Okay, so what does this kind of delay of the online casino regulation mean for the wider market?
She's paused there, but I think we have this question. Yeah. So I think the question is, what does this mean for the wider market? And is it preventing it from achieving its full potential?
Right.
Does it make it unviable for small brands? Helping you out here, Maria. I'm putting the question up there.
I'm sorry, was I interrupted again? Was I muted?
You fell off. You were stalled.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm repeating that. So what do you think that this gap between the two offerings, the regulation of the two offerings, mean for the wider market? Is it preventing the online casino market from achieving its full potential? And do you think that this will make it unviable for smaller brands in the future?
So I think by not having it legalized, of course, it's going to cause it to achieve its full potential, right? So not having it in all the different states that also have sports betting, it's a bigger cost. So when it does get legalized, if you can roll out both of them at the same time, right? Then you've got lesser cost there. So it is more costly to the operators to do it segmented. And but I think that I think that you have to get away from the stigma of the casino gaming, and that thinking that I guess we have to rethink about how we look at iGaming and say, how do you push from a bricks and mortar casino to make it something that is complementary to your bricks and mortar casino and have the iGaming space? So how do you make it there's a couple of different areas where you have to work on it. You have to say, how are you going to make it appeal to the customer that currently plays in the bricks and mortar casino? How are you going to make sure that they have that feel that they get in the casino? When somebody goes into a casino and they talk to their favorite dealer, or they, sit down at their favorite slot machine and then they go to dinner, how does that translate into that, betting from the home and playing on your iCasino? And I think that's where a lot of the social gaming comes in as a great thing, because it's kind of, that helping that push to, this is how this works, this is how this looks, this is how this can be fun and exciting. And I think that's what we need to be, pushing out there to help iGaming receive, get to its full potential, to get to that space where we have, hopefully we were talking in an earlier panel where Brazil did put it both iGaming and sports betting into the bill, and I would love to see that going forward so that they both happen at the same time. And I think that it gives. I don't think it makes it unviable for smaller brands. I think that it I think you have that brand. People know your brand in your local casinos and things like that, and you come out with an iGaming where they can game from home as well as game in your casino. Everybody wants that. If you're sitting someplace where it's snowing and you don't want to go out, it's a great thing to be able to be on your couch and play your favorite game. So I think they're very complementary. I think it would be great to have them roll out at the same time, going forward. But I think that there's work to do to get the different legislatures comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think the impact on the wider market can be significant. Obviously, the slower pace of the online casino legislation may limit the overall growth of the market, and that delay can not only affect both of the established brands, but then the smaller ones looking to enter the market. For the established ones, just to start, like it might mean that it's missing opportunities for expansion and innovation, and on the smaller end of things, for the smaller brands in particular, they might find it more challenging to enter a market where the legal framework and everything is very either restrictive or unclear. For smaller brands in particular, actually, yeah, that'd be it, just to make it more restrictive and unclear.
Alan, you're on mute.
Sorry, someone's going to do it. It's usually me. I think that if you look at, I would agree with everything that you guys have said. I would think that one of the things that there is some data to show, though, that with the right sort of product and marketing mix and understanding, smaller brands can still make an impact, right? You look at what some of the smaller brands in New Jersey have done, some of the more recent entrants into the New Jersey market, right? A very mature, very well-established market. And there's been a couple of iGaming specific new entrants that have made they're not pushing to dethrone the top 3 or top 5 anytime soon, but they've been able to achieve double-digit market penetration percentage points in a very short time because they came to market with unique products and unique perspective and a unique marketing mix. I think that's really important and key. And to what Jamie said, I think a really great and interesting model, and what we sort of are always pushing our clients to look at is, viewing social and iGaming as, to Jamie's point, very complementary to what's happening in, on premises, right? And using those as tools to engage with customers at in a more frequent manner as a brand, but ultimately to use those as tools to then drive people back into the land-based operation. So if you look at, for example, what BetMGM did, or what land-based MGM did to partner with Play Studios and the My Vegas, right, where people could play social, but then those social rewards could then be redeemed on site for things like free drinks, tickets, room upgrades, those types of things. I think that model going forward, especially in states where there are established brick and mortar that are looking to go online, I think that model is a great one for those brands to look at, emulate, and follow, to really be able to leverage the iGaming and social to drive that additional user engagement to their brick and mortar. I think Maria is frozen again.
Should we carry on with the next question, which is, will online casino ultimately catch up with online sports betting in terms of permitted states? What will it take to achieve this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start off if we're just going to roll through the questions. I think it's possible. It's just going to be very complex, just like every other thing in this industry. It feels like obviously a key factor is public perception and the acceptance of online casino gambling, as well as educating policymakers of the benefits of it, such as job creation and tax revenue and others.
Yeah, I mean, I would just. That's exactly the point, right? And the states that are going to move to adopt it, they're going to see the benefits from it. I think there really is a challenge for states that don't have any gambling regulation pre-existing, right, offline. So if you look at states like Texas, for example, it's gonna be very difficult for them to get past that hurdle. But if they can, that is a huge state opportunity. And I don't know if people have talked about it on prior panels, but for example, I think what's interesting is what's happening in Florida. You know, sort of monopolistic things aside, right? If the framework for the tribes is, hey, we don't have to go through the state legislation, we can just amend our existing deal with the state, and there's a path to that. I think you could see, for example, if that stands, you could see a state like California move very quickly with the tribes here and their setup and the cash that they have to be able to get online very quickly. I think you could see that as a framework that they would want to follow, as opposed to having to go through the legislative sessions that they're currently having to go through. So
do you think, you know, like it's going to just catch some steam and get going, and we're going to see it, you know, roll pretty fast? We saw that, you know, with sports betting legislation, it was kind of slow in the beginning, and then it was boom, 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 you know, all these states coming in. So I think that's going to happen as we progress, as there's more data, as people feel more comfortable with it, that I think that it will continue to grow. And I think we will see that rapid fire. It's going to, you know, I said this on a previous panel, but I'm really interested to see what the next 3 years, 5 years looks like. Who's the leaders? Where is it going? Is the same, have the sportsbook operators who have embraced iGaming, have they been able to, have they really taken over the market? Has it been, you know, those groups that you didn't see coming? Have they really taken over? And is that the iCasino? Is there going to be that difference between what was originally a sports betting operator taking on iGaming as to a pure iGaming operator? It's going to be really interesting to watch over the next couple of years.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. I was actually offline for a bit.
We're just rolling along.
Okay. Thank you very much for this. And I have a huge delay. I don't know if you have covered this and if you would like to move on to a following topic.
Yes, we've covered it. We can go to the next topic.
I believe that you would have thoroughly. So, I don't know if you already discussed if the online casino will ultimately catch up with the online sports betting in terms of the regulated states, and what will it take to achieve this?
Yes, we just did that one.
Okay. And so how can operators get ready for that, for this potential wider rollout of online casinos? Does this bring the social free-to-play casinos into play in the same way that, as we discussed before, DFS was a precursor for sports betting, or is it a completely different case?
You know, I love social casinos. I think it's a great way to for people to get their feet wet. There's a group that's always going to love the social casinos. There will be a group that do both, and there will be a group that goes on from the social gaming to the iGaming. So I think they're great. I think you know, one of the problems that I think both iGaming and sports betting have had is that lack of education about how you play, how the games work. I think the social casinos give that gives that a little bit of a, oh, I understand. It gives that feel without much risk, right? So you can go in and kind of try it out, see how you like it, and then moving on to you know, iGaming. Then they come in with that skill set level that I know how this works, and I think that, you know, just in general, we have to get better about educating players on the platforms and how they work and what the different bets are, how these bonuses work. I mean, that is one of the biggest questions with, you know, playthroughs and, you know, drip bonuses and things like that. So things people were never really understood before and probably don't understand now. So, you know, just getting better at what we're putting out there and not racing to the bottom. You know, you found with sports betting, you ended up with a lot of, you know, promo hunters, people, you know, not being very loyal to a specific brand, but instead to the promo that comes up next. So I think with the online casinos, I think it's really important to think about product as a marketing tool, to think about how we can best make sure that the player is educated and understands, how they deposit, how they get to play, and all of those things. And then really it's up to the online casino to do a great job at retention, keeping that player, by listening to the player, seeing what the player wants. Do they want improved tooling? Do they want a faster deposit withdrawal? Do they want, what do they want, and how do you give that to them? And instead of just, kind of throwing the promotion money, really focusing on that next level. You need to do this to acquire, but what are you doing in the next 90 days to keep that player and keep them from being promiscuous and keep them on your site?
Yeah, I think for me, and when we look at it, there's a couple different perspectives that we try and educate the operators that we work with on. One is to Jamie's point exactly. When you look at iGaming, you've really got to understand the consumer desires and what they're ultimately looking for from an entertainment product, right? So it's not okay, cool, let's just go put our brand on a social casino and put it out there for our customers, right? You have to get the right product mix with the right marketing and education to help the consumer understand, hey, look, this is coming. We have a social product here for you to be able to engage with our brand, so you can start to learn and understand what it is you enjoy from the iGaming content versus what content is available in the brick and mortar, because they are different. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but they are different. And so that education piece, I think, is key, but more so, or not more so, but just as important is that product mix. The operators need to understand that, hey, the same way that people choose to stay at a property for various reasons, you need to understand why they're choosing to play with your social casino. There's got to be differentiators there, and that can be a number of things. I always, again, point back to, for example, with My Vegas, what they've done to say, hey, if you play with us on our social app, you're going to earn status and credit with your brick and mortar player card. I think the more these land-based operators can look at that as a strategy for iGaming and how to create that brand awareness and that brand engagement, I think that's going to be critical for them. And I think they can start to lay that groundwork now before there is legislation, because social and sweepstakes are perfectly legal and perfectly fine. I think that they've chosen not to engage with that for whatever reason, or they've done so half-heartedly, so it hasn't really worked. But I think if you were to see one go fully committed into saying, right, well, before legislation happens, we're going to commit to a social strategy that's going to tie into our brick and mortar and a holistic 360 player engagement, I think you could see someone coming out very successful when the legislation finally does happen. They've already got the communications, they've already got the customers ready to engage with that product. It's just a matter of being able to turn it on.
Yeah, and as they both said, like, the transparency is just huge. The social casinos can serve almost as like a bridge. It's introducing these new players to casino style gamings in a more casual and risk-free environment, because the last thing you want is someone going to a card game or a table game and not knowing and then just losing their money. So teaching them and being transparent as possible is definitely one of the most important parts.
So it all comes down to education, and social casinos have already sort of prepared the way for that. And would you say that from the overall sports betting experience, are there any key lessons learned that could be applied to online casino as the market continues to grow and mature?
I think Jamie made a really good point earlier, which is, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, Jamie made a really good point in the last, which is don't race to the bottom. This is not, with iGaming, it's you want to take the learnings of, you don't want to be giving away $5,000 in free money. You don't want to be structuring bonuses that could be viewed as predatory. You want to take a more methodical and measured approach to make sure that the consumers you're acquiring are consumers that are going to stick around, and that you know, that you're not sacrificing bottom line profitability for a land grab. At the end of the day, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I think that the brands who take that approach are going to be the ones that are there in the long run.
Yeah, I'll just touch on it. It's slow and steady wins the race. I think it's pretty straightforward, which is a surprise in a complex industry, but it's, you know, emphasizing responsible gaming. It's transparency, as I touched on in my last point, marketing and branding, user experience, and just adapting and staying up to date with trends.
I agree 100%. I think it's, you know, retain those players that you've earned. Keep your product innovative, you know, make sure that you're not just stalling, that you're always, you know, looking to update and educate the players, make sure that they understand why we ask for the things we do for AML and KYC and things like that, like, so that they have an understanding of, you know, what the regulations are in the most customer friendly way, right? So that they don't feel that, you know, these are scams or anything like that. And so I think it goes down to, you know, the education. I think we learned that with the sports betting side. And really that retention marketing and innovation is just so drastically important.
And this is a little bit of a rabbit hole. One of the things that we have always sort of educate the brands on is, hey, when you're entering the digital space, you're no longer a big fish in a really small pond like they are right now. If you look at sort of what they've done from a land-based perspective, right? Some of these bigger brands in the land-based side, it's like, hey, you built a great product, or you built a great property. You're going to get customers because, right? Because there's limited choice, and you offer a good product, but there is limited choice. When you move online, you've got to understand that not only are you competing against the other brands that are there online, you're competing against the huge social brands, which are very efficient, right? If you look at their user acquisition versus monetization, and you look at the way that those guys are, they're very methodical. They have a 15-year head start on you, to be frank, right? Like, they understand things that you as a brand just don't understand from a digital perspective. And I think one of the key areas too that we always like to say is also, you're not just competing, again, you're not just competing with your land-based competitors, you're not just competing with the digital competitors, but you're also competing with every other vertical and every other app that's pushing for engagement and eyeballs and attention, consumer attention. And I think that's one of the areas where in iGaming and sports betting, we've done a very bad job as an industry understanding that. Like, hey, FanDuel, DraftKings, that's great that you guys think you're number 1 and 2, but if you look at how your app and user engagement compares to just the top 100 apps for consumer attention, you're not even close, not even close. And so I think that understanding that mindset of, hey, if you're going to go online, if you're going to go digital, and you're going to want to really compete, you need to understand the much larger set of competitors that you're going to be competing against and how efficient and how meticulous they are. And unless you adopt that same mindset, you're going to have a very challenging road. It's going to be a very expensive endeavor for you.
So it all comes down to essentially retention and this fight for the user's attention that happens both online and offline. To close this, what do you see for 2024 now that you know the ball is rolling for the online casino regulation? What are the you know the evolution? What's the evolution of the regulation? What do you see happening in 2024?
I think
the hope is that it goes across the different states, you know, like that that it does become regulated, that it does, you know, start that the snowball, get it going faster, get states on board and roll out that iGaming.
I'd say the only politically, the only challenge is the fact that 2024 is an election year, right? And so it can go one of two ways. Either that's a good thing, meaning that the gaming regulation will fly under the radar because everything else will take, you know, everything else will have the attention, or it's a bad thing, right? Everything's gonna be, all the attention from all the legal and lobbying perspective is gonna be focused on that 2024 election. And so all these sort of, I say this facetiously, but less important regulatory things are going to get pushed down the table. So it's yet to be seen whether it's going to go either way. And I think in different states, you're going to have different opportunities. I think the two big states, obviously, that everyone's waiting on are Florida or California and Texas. And from what it seems like Texas will move faster than California, but there's been some recent developments in the state of California that have, I think, could put it back into the legislative scope, but that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, similar to what Jamie said, I think getting the snowball effect just rolling, there's going to be a lot of patience, but I think there is some optimism for it.
All right. Thank you all very much for your time and for your patience with my horrible technical problems. It was great to hear from all of you on this matter, and we are looking forward to seeing you and hosting you again under more favorable circumstances in our 2024 Gaming Americas panels as well. Please, everyone, stay tuned because we will be announcing the dates very soon. So thank you all very much, and looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.